We are ready. Good evening, and thank you for attending part 2 of our Cybersecurity Forum. And we are indeed excited to look at the whole world of cybersecurity through the lens of some phenomenal women. And we started this off in March, Women's Month, and we are continuing into April. I welcome you on behalf of GABA, the Global African Business Association, and our honorable president is with us. He will speak next. However, as we look at the fourth industrial revolution, we are indeed looking at how we can impact the world of cybersecurity, and particularly for women and women of color. So we greet you today. We look forward to that dynamic conversation with some action around what we do next following this conversation, this dialogue, and this interaction. And at this time, I turn you over to our president, the Honorable Mr. Kindler.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watkins, and greetings, everyone. Thank you for returning for part 2 and women of color in cybersecurity. We think this is a very important discussion. As Dr. Watkins pointed out, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. You've heard President Biden talk about the fourth industrial revolution. You heard Andrew Yang talk about the fourth industrial revolution. So this is in motion right now. I want to start off by sharing with the whole group. I was reading last week that Toyota is a car company, car manufacturing company. Toyota is building a 175-acre smart city, 62 miles east of Tokyo. Toyota is building a smart city. And they're going to use that smart city not just for residents, but for research and development. Now that is power when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution. We have in real estate right now, I was just talking to a GABA member about how the real estate market is changing and moving in the fourth industrial revolution. They're doing a process called real estate tokenization. This is what they're using with cryptocurrencies. I know, Dr. Watkins, you sent me an article about Vernon J. And I did speak to Vernon J. I did speak to him directly about doing some work in Michigan. He said he's not ready to do that just yet, but he's considering it. He's doing it in New York and I think Florida right now with real estate. This is a process where people around the world can bid on properties through cryptocurrencies as low as $40, $50, as opposed to having $3,000 to $4,000 up front to invest in a property. Right? And this is what they're using on Wall Street in places like New York, California, and Florida, places like that. All of this is connected to technology. And of course, like we talked about before in this discussion, it's important for us to protect data. Data is the new oil. People do not realize that. Data is the new oil. If we're still fighting over oil for 2 decades into the 21st century, you know that we are far behind. Joe Biden talked about a $2 trillion infrastructure project, and people are up in arms. They're not understanding that we need to bring our digital, part of that is bringing our digital infrastructure up to code to compete with global players like China, global players like South Korea, global players like Germany. And so this dialogue, I'm going to sit back and listen to the experts. I know all of you brought the fire the last time, and I'm eager to hear what you have to say in this dialogue this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Terrence Campbell. Take it away, my brother.
Good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for taking the time to turn into part 2 of our webinar series. And I am going to just hand it off to my co-moderator, Ms. Han, and let's get started.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining today. I'm Sarah Hahn again. I'm working as an analyst on the Terminix InfoSec team, and I'm also a member of the DE&I Council on the Inclusion Group, and also working with the Talent and Equity team to help bring a more diverse workforce into the Terminix Nation. And if we want, Terrence, we want to introduce the other members of the panel again as well. Awesome. So I can pass it on to
Oh, it looks like she froze. So I will pass it on to Ms. Bailey. It's good to see you again today.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sharon Bailey. It's good to see you as well again, Terrence. I am Sharon Bailey. I am an IT and communications manager for Terminix. Been with Terminix this year will be 9 years. And this year is my 21st year in technology, none of which I have been coding. I'm not a coder. It's not on my bucket list. I'm not a programmer. But I do have friends who work in information security. My good friend Thomas Davis is the chief chief security officer. I just gave Thomas a promotion. So my good friend Thomas Davis of over 21 years is the chief information officer for Terminix, and that's who Sarah and Terrence have the privilege of working with. So I'm excited to hear all of the information that's going to be shared. So welcome, and I'm excited to be here. I will pass it on to Carol.
Good evening. I'm Carol Williams, and I'm from the other side of the track. I'm a CPA and semi-retired. I do a lot of community board work where I often serve either as a treasurer or on the investment committee or the financial structure or development, somewhere in that capacity. And I'm here to look at how cybersecurity impacts small, medium-sized nonprofit organizations that usually do not have the funds to be able to hire or provide in-house services alone. And so how we look to the outside world to help us protect our assets. And I'll pass it on to Vicki.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you again and to be surrounded by such dynamic information security minds. I'm Vicki Williamson. I'm out of Detroit, Michigan. I currently serve as a cybersecurity analyst for the United States Department of Treasury. I have been there, this will be year number 12, and I've been in IT since the 90s, late 90s. Primarily my role and function is data loss prevention. So what our team does is we monitor outbound email traffic, and we look for personal identifiable information, such as your social security numbers, credit cards, etc. And we make sure that none of that information is being leaked or falls into the wrong hands. And we investigate security incidents, and we do auditing and monitoring of our systems and testing for penetration and all of those good things that are all wrapped up into the cyber ball. So that's what I do, and I'm excited to be here again tonight, and I'm looking forward to the dialogue. I'll pass it to Cecile.
Thank you so much, Vicki. My name is Cecile Munger, and I am a penetration tester with IBM X-Force Red Team. So pretty much what we do on on the Red Team is we pretty much hack into systems of our clients and use the same ways the bad guys are using to trying to get into the system so that we could prevent it from happening. So we pretty much do the pen testing on the IBM products, and we also have other clients, which are mainly financial institutions and some government contracts. So I am excited to be here. I am very passionate about teaching just the average person how to protect themselves online. And yes, I'm just very excited being here. And I will pass it to who haven't spoken. Miss Miss Paula, Dr. Paula Watkins.
Well, I'll reintroduce myself. I guess maybe I didn't introduce myself, so I will say my name and everything. I am Paula Whitaker Watkins. Thank you, Ms. Cecile. I am a member of GABA, and I'm also on the board of directors for GABA. And along with that, I am a member of the offshoot committee under Mr. Terrence Campbell. And with that, I am with Cyber Education Center. We are a center that was envisioned and founded as a cyber training school. And when I say cyber training school, we have been working in digital literacy for our students for the past 12 years. We started with the vision of re-engaging and re-enrolling youth and young adults and older adults who did not originally complete their high school diplomas in a traditional brick and mortar setting. We started with a few students in Michigan. We have now expanded where we can serve students across the country, and we graduated our first global graduate from Tanzania in 2020. We have been approved by the Minister of Education in Nigeria to launch our school there, which we really thought that would launch in 2020. We had all the planning. With COVID, we really had to slow down, but we're ready. Our people on the ground there, our team, and we're launching that in conjunction with GABA. And we're just very excited about that. So I am happy that we're hosting this forum tonight, and we look forward to some concrete efforts after this forum, post-forum, that we're able to really impact the world of cybersecurity. Thank you all for being here, and we thank Sarah for facilitating it.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have any more introductions? I guess we can get started.
Yeah, no, everyone that can make it here is here. Our other panelists is out again, saving the world. And Dr. Milton had emergency eye surgery today.
So I'd like to open it up with a question we often get asked a lot when we're recruiting for interns, and the summer internship season is right in the process. And I've dealt with a lot of reservations from female students wanting to go into the industry about how male dominated the industry is. And just kind of that like gender imbalance really puts them off from wanting to even apply or accept a role in cybersecurity. So what kind of advice do the panelists have to put their minds at ease and encourage them to continue forth in this field?
Thank you, Sarah. This is Vicki. I'll go first. I was struggling to find the mute button. At any rate, if my phone starts ringing in the background, I was letting everybody know it's my mom's 80th birthday, and the phone has rang nonstop all day. So if you hear some ringing, that's where it's coming from. But thank you for the question, Sarah. Of course, it is a male-dominated field. When I started, probably a little over 20 some odd years ago, it was even more male-focused. We've made great strides. We have even more work to do. I would say go for it. Sometimes we're steered away from the sciences and the technology and the engineering and the math and all of those sort of career paths. But I think that it's important that even if you get 100 no's, at some point you're going to get a yes. And at the point that I started, like I say, late 90s, people told me a lot of what I could not do. I was on the help desk. They say, oh, you're going to always be on the help desk. And then I said, no, I have other aspirations. So I continued to research to see what practical experience I needed, if I needed to do work studies. So there's a lot of different paths and avenues that one can take. But my advice is just to keep going, and that even if people say no, at some point they will say yes. and you will be able to do the things that you want to do. And that's why it's important for me to speak and to join these types of dialogues and conversations so other people can see that it is possible. And I always try to reach back and tell others and keep them encouraged and say, just do it. It's a lot, and it's still where I am, it's still very male dominated, but I don't give up and I just keep pushing. So just, let them know to apply. Don't be discouraged, because you're not going to get the things that you don't try for. So if you psych yourself out in the beginning and say, oh, I don't have a chance, you don't have a chance because you don't have yourself in the game. So that would be the advice that I would give to anybody who is looking to break into this specific field. Thank you.
Okay, yes, I want to speak on that too. I think that there is so many organizations out there too that are really encouraging women to get into cybersecurity. So if somebody wants to like join and kind of like have like reservation and things like that, I would recommend that they Google some of these organizations. For example, myself, once before I was even done with the program, I was on the IBM website and I noticed that they have a women at IBM forum, and they have like a program, and it was like join women at IBM. And I, at first I wasn't like, maybe you have to work at IBM to join it, but no, anybody could join it, and you could just see how much beautiful things women do for the company, and just kind of like how innovative we are. Like they really need us in that industry. And so, I joined the organization, and believe it or not, it's through my name being within the organization at Women at IBM that I was forwarded the application for pen testing that I end up applying for and actually got in. So really, don't get discouraged. I think really now is really the time, because everybody's starting to understand that we really could kick some butt and they need us on board. So don't get discouraged, and really do your research and look into some of these organizations if you need an extra push, because it's pretty good at doing it.
I totally agree. Anyone else wants to comment on that?
Yes, from the other side, I'm also affiliated with a lot of educational institutions. And so we really encourage women, or I encourage women, to explore the fields that are often different from where they would normally go. And cybersecurity is one. It's a field which provides women with the opportunity for flexibility. And so when I'm counseling young women, 18 to 22 primarily, I let them know that their lives will change about every 5 years. There will be a significant change in your life. And regardless of the rest of the world, what you do will really influence how your family is able to move forward. And so going into a technical field gives you opportunity and flexibility that should you decide to marry, have a partner, have children, your career can move with you. And then also when you get caught in that sandwich years, which is hard for a young woman to see, where you have children on one end and aging parents or relatives on the other end, again, having a career that has continuous growth and flexibility allows you to do the things that you want to do. So I'm constantly trying to encourage women to look for flexibility. Your life will not be static. It will be forever changing.
And Sarah, I would like to add to that. I'm not in information security. However, I've been in technology again for 21 years. And as you all know, technology is typically a male dominated field, but more so So it's pest control, right? We work for Terminex. I work for Terminex. And as a member and a leader on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council with Sarah, we've heard a lot of comments from our sales professionals who work in the field, our frontline sales professionals, that they have experienced a lot, right? So not just, African American, but it is, the females. If you're a branch manager, I've heard, when people call, customers call, they want to speak to a man, or they want a male technician to come to their house. They don't believe women know about bugs, or they can't believe that, a woman can do well in this field. So I've heard a lot of that about, from our female technicians who are frontline employees, that they get a lot of discrimination, and they they haven't been supported, whether it's internally or externally. So here at Service Master, here at Terminex, we are making a conscious effort to make sure that all employees are supported, whether you're male, female, black, white, young, old. But there is a gap for as far as male and female technicians. People don't necessarily, our customers may not receive them well, or may not think that they're as knowledgeable as their male counterparts.
And I'd like to add to that as well. I love what everyone's sharing. And I think even from our student base, I'd like to add that we try to encourage our young women to also look at technology. We have several different areas where they're credential programs, so that as they come out with a high school diploma, and we don't offer GED, they can only earn with us a high school diploma. We are not condescending toward a GED, please know that, but that's all we offer. And so we also encourage them to get post-secondary readiness skills. And one area for them to get credentialing is in cybersecurity as they study with us. So when they graduate with their high school diploma, they can have that. They also have an opportunity to enroll in a dual enrollment program to earn college credit while they're with us. So all of that to ensure they're on track to be transformative in terms of how their life circumstances will be. Because one of the reasons they're with us is because they had societal and life circumstances that just hit them in the face and caused them to stop out of school. And whatever it is, young parenting, loss of parents and working full time to, help support the family, whatever the reasons, we now want them to be on a track toward a higher quality of life.
We mentioned this a little bit throughout the conversations for that last question, but what are some of the challenges that you've seen in your respective roles, and how your organization has combated the issue with retaining underrepresented groups in technology, and specifically women in cybersecurity?
Hi, it's Vicki. Currently, we've had a change in our leadership. Our ACIO of many years retired sometime in 2020. And so her deputy was bumped up into her role, and he's an African-American male. And then he has a deputy, and she's an African-American female. And so what they've been doing is they looked at our structure. They're doing some reorganization, they're doing some alignment, and they're actually creating programs that have different, they use a lot of acronyms. So they have one that's called SHIELD, and that's to actually bring people who are in what we would call our lower pay bands and in other areas that may or may not be IT specific. They're bringing them along, and they're lining them up with mentors, and they're showing them a pathway in order to join IT and specifically cybersecurity. There goes the phone. And so that's one of the things that I'm noticing that they're doing. And I think it's just really great. And I'm encouraged, and they're doing a lot of stuff for us, like throughout the pandemic, as far as our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health. And so I'm seeing a very big shift in how we function. And sometimes when you get a fresh set of eyes, and they look at things and they evaluate, then they make, changes. And these changes that I'm seeing are for the better. And we actually have this thing called Coffee with the Boss. And it's like open dialogue, and we can bring up things that are on our mind, and people talk about career pathing and advancement and all of these things. And he has such an open ear. A couple of people that reached out to him, he said, "Oh, I'll be your mentor." And that's almost unheard of. When people get to what they consider the executive service level, they don't have time, and they're kind of busy with the running of the business. So they don't really look at trying to bring people along. So I think that's a great, great thing that I'm noticing. So I'm encouraged, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, what they do over the next 2 to 5 years.
Awesome. Anyone else on the panel noticing some challenges in retaining underrepresented groups in technology, and what your organization has done to keep them in these respective fields?
One of the things
Okay.
that I've noticed, and this is talking with young women from out of organizations that I'm not affiliated with, but literally we are in the same physical running group. So we run together. And when listening to this group of women who are in their mid-30s, early 40s, and the challenges that they're facing, is what I often hear is that they're trying to be one of the guys. And my explanation to them and listening to them is you're not one of the guys. You have to be you. You have to perform for yourself. And in trying to be one of the guys, you're not authentic. You're not providing the diversity that the company is looking for, and your skill sets and your logic, just as a person, as a separate person, is different than one of the guys. They hired you for you, and you have to perform as you. The other point I find with counseling younger women is that you have to make sure that when you're competing, that you're competing with the same skill set. So if you're finding people are attending conferences, then you have to go to those conferences. If you're coming to work, you have to come to work to compete in the area in which you are. So you have to be prepared for that, and you can't make excuses. You have to be tough. And so that's on the other side. I know there's a lot of discrimination and problems on the one side of the job performance, but in talking to women, how do you compete? Well, you have to compete like a woman, and go in there and go in with your full skill set, go in there with confidence that you can do the job, and then do the job.
Sounds good to me.
Anyone else? If not, we can move forward. For those specifically in government and academia, what are your organizations doing to help advance underrepresented groups in this field? Or industry?
Thanks, Sarah. I mentioned that some of the, I'm sorry, Cecile. I mentioned that because I try to catch it before this phone starts ringing again. I mentioned some of the things that our new leadership are doing. We also have different organizations, like one of them is called Federally Employed Women. I happen to be the president of the Motor City chapter. And so what we do is we are trying to even and level the playing field in regards to the pay, the equality, the opportunity. So we have a lot of different things that we're doing with our membership. like mentoring programs, and we have one that we just set up. And there is like, it's gonna last for a year. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna pair the selectees with someone who is in, maybe not in the same like field, or not field where, you know, I'm IT, this person might be in another federal department, but they're at a higher level, like your executive and your senior and your managers and those kind of people. And you're going to spend a year with that person. They're going to have us do different kinds of exercises and things to help you get to the next level, because we have, sometimes you get to a certain area with the federal government and you can kind of get sandwiched in between floors. So that's what they're doing, is they're trying to make sure that we get more women into the higher pay band and into what we would consider our leadership position. So that's kind of sort of something that they're going to do over the year, and you meet and you have workshops and you spend time and you have like a certain set of things that you have to do. And then next year in July of 2022, then you will graduate, and hopefully at that time you will be able to, through the networking and through the relationship, find a way to get, you know, to the next level. So I think, you know, those are some of the things that I'm seeing that they're doing, because sometimes people give up when they don't, if they try a couple times and they're not getting, you know, the result that they're looking for, then sometimes they'll go and choose a different area of IT, or sometimes they'll just leave IT altogether and go and do something different. But that's kind of sort of what I'm seeing, you know, at the federal government level right now.
Okay, for with my company, the one thing that I'm saying that they're doing to try to like really bridge this gap, because in our, for example, in my position on the red team, we had no entry level. You either do it, know it, or you don't. And the one only other way you could get into the red team would be to come from a 4-year college with a bachelor. And so, and you have to come in as an intern. Once you do your intern, you go to like a 12-week training, and then they decide if they want to keep you or not. But one thing that I saw that they do that is very new is actually now they have entry level position for that position. So now they're going outside of those who's doing a 4-year degree, to get them in the door. And I think that is really, that have given a lot more people opportunity to, like, for people career change, and people that's kind of like in the middle, like myself. I was in the middle of a career change. I was done with college like some years back, and just kind of went back just for certification. So that gave me an opportunity to be able to get through the door. And I think, IBM is pretty big in diversity, because we're like globally all over the place, and the culture and just pushing diversity in the company is very big. So yeah, so that's one small thing that I've noticed that they're doing, that they're opening more to like entry level positions, and actually hiring people outside of the 4-year internship program that they had.
Sarah, if I could add, I feel a little bit similar to what Ms. Carol was saying earlier, that, we're an academic institution, so we're not distinctly, in that industry or saying how people would stay. But let me offer one way that we encourage young women to move forward. We've partnered with, we have collaboration partnership with a group called Empower. Are you all familiar with Empower? Empower, you've heard of the gentleman, Robert Smith, when he gave the commencement speech at Morehouse, and then he paid off the debt. Well, he started a company called Empower, and Empower does this training for individuals in technology. and they give them mentorship and programs and opportunities, internships, so that they come out with a guaranteed job. And so we have the partnership and collaboration with them, with the Detroit group. They're all over the country, and they're in Texas, they're in Maryland. I don't know about Ohio, but you know, lots of different states. And our students are guaranteed an automatic seat in an Empower training opportunity. Ergo, they receive a mentor in technology. They receive that internship and they receive that training. And once they finish from there, they're somewhat on their way toward a progression of success, you know, if they've selected that. And so I would just add that that's one way we're trying to ensure their endurance and the sustainability.
That's great. It's good to hear everything we say. I just wanted to, you know, put on it too that, you know, Terminex, we have summer internship program for college students, and we are very intentional in making sure that not only is there diversity in terms of it's close to a 50-50 split that we can make in terms of males and females, but we also then look even further in terms of diversity within both groups to see who, you know, make sure those underrepresented groups are at the table, or at least get an exposure opportunity to see, you know, what is IT? Because a lot of folks, they say IT, and it's a lot of very technical kinds of things. And while we do have, you know, Sarah on the high end in terms of very technical in terms of cybersecurity, we have Sharon who's communications, okay? And there's a lot of technical stuff that she knows, but in terms of technical and servers and all this other kinds of things and acronyms that we hear with respect to not just cybersecurity, but IT in general, while she does understand them, she doesn't do a whole lot of that kind of stuff with respect to her job day to day. But she does. I mean, she knows our chief propeller head very well in terms of Thomas, Mr. Davis. So we definitely make sure we do that. And we've recently actually created a board for the internship program. And some of the things that I'm hearing you all say will be great. We have definitely, as recently as this week, talked about, okay, how do we make sure that is as much best a mentorship opportunity, you know, because in IT, we focus a lot on the technical side, but not so much on the soft or the power skills is what they're calling them now. And so we're trying to see, okay, if Sarah was an intern coming in, you know, how can I be a mentor for her? And she was going to say, for instance, going in, Sharon would be better. So Sharon going into communications and me being a technical person, there is a different type of soft skill development or mentorship that I might be able to do with her as well, to get exactly to what Carol was saying, you know, being tough, but kind of being that yin and yang as well, though.
I totally agree. Speaking of mentorship, how have you all found mentors in your fields or in fields that you'd like to go into?
Me personally, I've joined different organizations, and Meetup was actually a big, what can I say, a big part of my my journey into cybersecurity. I joined as many Meetup groups as I could. That was, you know, if they say anything cybersecurity, Black, African American in cybersecurity, women in cybersecurity, pen testing, anything that really play into what I wanted to do, I joined the organization. I've also joined it in an organization that's based on it's called it's a High Council of Cameroonian Abroad. So they have a cybersecurity team that's working on plan on how to really incorporate. They're working with different plans on how to introduce cybersecurity back home to my home country in Cameroon. And so, I mean, it's kind of different because when we talking, especially Africans, like everybody doctorate degree, and it's kind of like hard to kind of come into that industry and then you are like one or two of the women on the table, and then you're very young, so it's hard to come up and really trying to come. But I have learned that just kind of like always being around these type of people, I've learned so much. I've gained so many mentors, everybody, and a lot of time you just have to ask. Everybody is so open to trying to help. But I feel like a lot of that is intimidating looking from the outside until you actually go talk to somebody that you know and I've talked to everybody I know in the industry, especially when I was looking into going. I don't even think I knew what the direction was. I said, hey, you're in IT, because a lot of people just say I'm in IT, right? So you really don't know the difference between, hey, you in IT, I'm trying to go into cybersecurity. Oh yeah, I could help you here, and there and there. And it's kind of strange, like after so many months of me going through this and then actually getting a job, some of those people are actually coming to me as like direction. So and it's just that I guess I had a lot more time in my hand to like network, meet the right people, not get intimidated by the posture or like an organization or somebody. That I think that's have always been my my plus. I'm very good at just not getting intimidated because of a title or what position a person hold. If I need something, I will come to you and I will get it. And so if I was to encourage anybody, I would just say, don't be intimidated. If you have a question, step up to somebody that you know. If you don't know anybody, you could look into like meetups and different organizations to try to find a mentor.
So I think as I reflect on my mentorship and my journey, I would kind of align with what Carol was saying in terms of looking at your life, in 5-year increments. What I needed in terms of mentorship, you know, 20 years ago is totally different than what I need, in terms of mentorships, today, just because of just life in general and not just my job, but where I am personally as well. And so I think that, that's one of the things that I don't think that we oftentimes talk to people enough in terms of, the journey of a million miles starts with that one step of view. And you need to kind of be in tune with yourself a little bit in terms of, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? That typical interview question, which you should be asking yourself, every six to 9 months, where do I want to be? Have I made it? What has kept me from being there? And a lot of times it's networking, it's mentorship, it's that soft side of you that, you have to just come out of your shell sometime as well, to what you were just saying, Cecil. Don't tell yourself no. Let other folks tell you no, but don't let that no be the end of the road, because you're gonna hear as Vicki was saying, you're gonna hear no a whole lot more times in your life than you're gonna hear yes. And that does not have to define you.
I agree with Cecile and Terrence. It's true. I think that with me, I've had people along the way that saw something in me as far as my interest. Anytime there was a class or anything that was available or certification, anything that I saw that I could take advantage of that I thought would help further me along, those are the things I did. I did a lot of research on my own, like Cecile says. That's important, joining groups, doing networking. So I would go to different conferences and sometimes things that people typically wouldn't want to go to, and they might go there and be in the city and they might be doing something else. I was always sitting at the table. I was talking to people. I was trying to find out, who knew whom, because a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. So you need to align yourself properly. And I think that that's really important. And so for me, that's something that has helped me. And like Cecile says, some of the people that kind of told me that I couldn't, later on came to me and said, how did you? And they needed me to give them recommendations, resources, referrals, etc. So I just think that, you have to have some self-direction. And as Carol would say, you have to be tough. You're still a woman. You have to always keep that in mind. Don't lose sight of who you are and trying to fit in. And like I say, for me, it was the fact that other people saw something, and because I took an interest and because I reached out, they were more than willing to help me get to the next level and go from, you know, one area of IT to a different area to a different area, and then ultimately I landed, you know, in cybersecurity. So I just think it's important for you to establish relationships and keep them and be genuine in doing that. Not do it just for the purpose of you getting something and then getting to the next level and then forgetting about the person, but it's actually having a relationship that spans over a period of time.
I agree. I think those relationships, I wouldn't be where I am today without the relationships I've had with my managers and executive leadership at Terminex. Those relationships with executive colleagues are so important, but more often than not, in our industry or just in technology in general, it's typically men. So I'm wondering, how do you navigate forming relationships and participating in mentorship programs with your executive colleagues or senior level leadership at your current companies?
I think when you're forming a mentorship or a coach type of relationship, you have to find someone who you actually admire to some extent. You have to respect the person, and that person has to have a certain amount of, has to respect you as well. And it's through a series of conversation where you can decide whether or not this person can help you move forward. So in developing this mentorship, or the person could be a coach because they're slightly different, you also have to be willing to open yourself up for improvement, to be willing to take a chance, to extend yourself. But if I could just kind of jump backwards to the last question, one of the ways to advance yourself is by taking chances. And some of the jobs and moves that I've made over my career technically were very scary. I mean, it was like, I'm moving to a new city. I'm moving to a new country. I'm doing this. I'm starting a new field, a new career. I'm going back to school to get this certification so that I can one day apply it to something else, looking farther down the road. So you have to be willing to get out there and extend yourself, try and do the work to get you to that next step. And it can be scary. You're taking a chance, but those chances will pay off because you'll be the one who will move forward because you did it. And so don't be afraid of and sometimes you have to let go of friends and kind of family along the way to say, nope, I'm going to do this. They'll catch back up with you. So just be willing to listen, to take the chance to move forward, because there are a lot of women and men, but a lot of women who are afraid to take the next steps because they don't think that they can handle it. There's never been a woman before. I've never done this. I'm first in my family. Well, someone has to be first. And a manager told me a long time ago when I was looking at a big move, I said, well, what if I can't do it? What if it doesn't work out? He said, you can come home. And that changed my life, literally changed my life. The fact that if it didn't work, I could come back. I could do something else. I wasn't stuck there forever. You know, I wasn't stuck at the North Pole or in Siberia. I could just come back. And so we have to be willing to trust ourselves and that you can get out there and you can do it.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I just have to add something that's so exciting about what you just said, Ms. Carol. my journal where I'm taking the notes for today's session, and to add the spiritual piece to it, actually has the quote at the top of the page that says, God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. That is on the top of my page. So when you said that, it was so exciting to me. Sarah, I'm sorry to jump in, but I just had to say that. And then I thought of a new term for that, is a career adventurer. You are someone who is just willing to get out there and do it, and you have to. Oh my, thank you for that. I'm sorry for getting excited, but I just had to share.
I agree. I think what Carol said was on point, because initially I was in a totally different career. I was an executive assistant. Like I said, people saw something in me, and so they kind of poured into me. And I left a job that I had been on from the age of 18 to I was there for 13 years, and I left to take a contract job to get more hands-on experience within IT. And a lot of people, try to discourage me because they say, you have seniority, why would you do that? They couldn't understand the vision that I had for myself that was larger than where I was at that particular time. And so I just kept on and kept on and kept on. And some years later, I caught up with one of the people who had worked at that job and had retired, and he couldn't understand because every time he would see me, I'd say, oh no, well, I'm here now and I'm there now. And they were steps. And I had to take the steps, and sometimes it was scary. After I left the 13-year job, I worked as a contractor for 6 months and they laid me off. So can you imagine, you left your job of 13 years and you get laid off after 6 months? And then you say, wow, and you second guess, should I have stayed there? And so, but the spirit of fear, I said, no, you have to just keep on pushing and move forward. And I did. And then when I saw him later, and after I had gotten all of my education, and after I had gotten the job that I have now, he was amazed. And he said, wow, now I understand why you did what you did. And if I listened to other people and took their advice, I wouldn't have made the moves that I made. And even though they were scary, like Carol says, they were necessary. And if I had to go back and do it again, I would do the same thing all over.
Yeah, I just echo Vicki and Carol, and I came from a household, General Motors, Bell, and just 30 years, when I'm going to do my 30 years and be there. And so me coming up, at the time in the late 80s, early 90s, and having a degree, and that was kind of around the time where certifications really start taking hold with Novell. But that was kind of conversations I was having with my mother, every 3, 4, 6 months. She would start, okay, where you at this month? Where you at today? Because opportunities were coming, and I was like, look, I'm not going to not take an opportunity. I'm not going to not be this career adventurer. Yeah, I want some stability, but stability is going to come when stability comes.
Totally agree. And especially with technology, there's no real stability. Everything is constantly changing, and the roles are constantly changing, and the technologies are constantly changing. So being able to keep up with that unstable environment is super, super critical. I have 2 more questions for the panel today. So one of the things women in technology often talk about is the imposter syndrome, or feeling dismissed in their role or not being heard. So I'm wondering if any of the panelists could talk about a time when that has impacted you, and looking back at it, how would you handle those situations today?
I did, I didn't want to be the first to speak on this because me personally, I don't, like I said, I don't get intimidated by anything. I almost sometimes feel like I don't have that, oh, I'm a woman problem, and this is my place, this is my position. I am willing to play. For example, I was speaking of this organization, the High Council of Cameroonian abroad cybersecurity plan and implementing a project that I was in. Everybody's pretty well educated, pretty much a lot older than I am. And the first time you kind of come in is like, who is that talking? Like, who are you? I said, hey, I am, of course, I'm going through the program and trying to get into cybersecurity. I thought this would be a good group for me to join. And I was wondering if you could give me the opportunity so I could learn through the process. And hey, I would take meeting notes. I don't care, if that's what you have to reduce me to. I mean, me personally, it doesn't bother me. And I did it. And up to right now, we have a seminar that we are doing next month. And I am one of the speakers amongst a whole bunch of men, So at the end of the day, I always have my goal, my objective, where I want to go. And I think that I kind of been I've been that way for a very long time, even with my career within criminal justice. I've always gone for a very male dominant industries. I kind of always been. And one thing that I think is Miss Carol who said, I mean, she really hits it, because every time I speak with friends or family or anything, it's like, oh, you in oil and gas, it's all men. It's like, all of a sudden you want to become a man, but that's really not the way to go. And you're not gonna imagine how many times I have that conversation with other peers that are women. Like, you can't try to act hard. You can't try to you're still gonna have to be the woman. That's why they hired you. And you have to carry that on. So to me, it really doesn't matter a lot of the time what you're thinking, because I have my goal, my objective, and I will get there regardless. So I don't know if it's the right attitude to have, but that's been mine from day one.
I'm like Cecile, the same thing. I've never let other people's opinion mold and shape the vision that I have for myself. And I think that's one of the things at certain times when you do go around people and they try to make you feel like you're inferior or that you don't belong, if you're not careful, you can kind of get sucked into a vacuum. But I've always been very purposeful in my movements and what I do and how I do, and not letting someone else determine whether I should or should not move forward with something that I feel is in my best interest. Have I always been successful? No, but that didn't, as I said before, I never let that stop me. And I just kept on, moving forward. And I just think that that's really important to know, that even if you're surrounded, like she says, sometimes I've been reduced to taking notes, because that's what I was before. I was an executive assistant. So people say, oh, well, you can take the notes, or they would give me something that wasn't really a technical task. It was more an administrative task. But instead of being frustrated, I would just still execute, and I would do it so well, and then I'd move on to the next thing. And sometimes people look to you to react in a certain way, and as long as you're able to maintain your cool, not lose sight of what your goal is, you can handle different things, because people are going to throw stuff at you all the time, and you just have to be ready to to stick and move, and then usually you're always going to land on your feet. So that's my thing, to just tell people to stay encouraged, and I'm always willing to talk. I always try to bring people behind me and just say, hey, you can do it, stick to it, you can do it. And even when you do get overwhelmed, because it's sometimes, I've been in the class and it was all men. I'm in a super technical forensic class. They're using all of these terms and all of these different things that I don't really know, what they mean. But I'd sit there and I'd smile and I'd make my notes, and they would be copious, and I would do it like that. And they never knew that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, whoa, this is a lot of information and it's coming at me fast. But it's like the poker face. You just smile and you look, and then next thing you know, you can get through it. So that's kind of, you know, my encouraging word, you know, for me to wrap up.
Right, because I think a lot of the time we are our own worst enemy. The biggest critic, the biggest person to hold us back is us. And I think, you know, you could see, I went back to talk to my program. The school called me in to speak to the program that I went through, to speak to the people that's going to the same program. And it was like, well, do I need to have technical language done? I said, look, English is my third language. And I was able to go to the program. And every day it was like, yeah, I'm gonna quit. Yeah, I can't do this yet. But I was the only one holding myself back. You know, I was the only one. And I mean, it was hard, but it really wasn't that hard. Just put the effort in it. And everything else that I think is small details that usually come in play and make us doubt everything. And I went through that for the whole 9 months of my program. I kept doubting myself. Well, I speak English this way. Well, I'm a female. Well, I'm Black. Well, I'm this. Well, I'm that. And none of that. I finished the program and I'm one of the first person who lands a job, and not just, you know, any job, you know. So it's, I don't know. I'm not trying to, so I always want to encourage people and just kind of like know your why. And your why will take you a very long way. Then, you know, I mean, of course, you got to know the technical stuff. Why not? But your why will take you a lot farther than, you know, what you're learning within that program, I think.
I was presenting to an executive group, and that being in finance, I was often not only the only female, but the only minority in the room. So it's also a very dominated, white male dominated field. But I made a presentation, I knew my stuff, and I was challenged on it. And at the end, one of the best compliments I ever received from an executive was, I didn't blink. So they were hammering at me and I was standing there. And at the end, and this was after it was over, we were actually going back to the office, and his comment to somebody else was, she didn't blink. So don't blink, you know, make sure you know your stuff. But if you can stand there, you know, don't blink. So, but it can be tough, and you just have to hold your position as a woman, and you know, just, you know, stand tall. So, thank you.
I think, Terrence, I'll hand it back to you. I know we're a little bit over, so I'll hand it back to you for a final wrap up.
Yeah, this has been great. I knew it was going to be, you know, awesome and amazing, and you know, it did to the next level. And I just truly am humbled that you ladies took the opportunity to give pearls of wisdom. You know, is oftentimes, especially in IT, is what's not in the book, right? You know, is that journey that you've taken, and the way that I would sum up what we were just was saying, that one of the mantras that I'm always telling the students is, as an IT professional, even if you don't know it, you know it. They don't know what you don't know. You don't have to blink. You know, they only know if you mess up your presentation or your speech when you stop, right? So if you don't stop, if you train yourself to just keep going in spite of, because you know why you're there, then just do that. And so we look forward to engaging you all in some other opportunities. There are some very cool opportunities that we have on the horizon that Dr. Paula and Mr. President and some other national organizations have asked us to really consider in the vein of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we have you all, you know, we have women ready to take the charge, that have been there, that aren't blinking, that know they why, and all this other great stuff that was there. So we'll definitely be getting in touch with you over the next couple of weeks in terms of, you know, what is our next path down the yellow brick road to Oz, if you will. And I will pass it on to Mr. President to close us out.
Thank you so much, Terrence. Thank you so much, Sarah. You have a bright future ahead of you. I appreciate you being on our conversation for part 1 and part 2. You did a phenomenal job with the questions, and I appreciate you being a participant in this. You have a great future ahead of you. Just don't forget about me when you become famous and write your first book. I want a pre-copy with you saying thank you for giving me my first chance with our women of color in cybersecurity. You did a phenomenal job. I'd like to thank the, yes, give her a hand, everybody. I mean, she is phenomenal, seriously. And just recently graduated. You got your first step here at Terminex, and I guarantee you the world is waiting for you and your expertise. So keep going and keep your head up, and don't let anything stand in your way of success. I'd like to thank Miss Carol Williams, of course, Sister Cecile, Vicki, Dr. Watkins, and I know Sharon had to drop off. I'd like to thank each and every last one of you for being on this panel. We do this as part of our Cybersecurity in the Diaspora series. This is an ongoing series through the Global African Business Association. Anybody that's a member of GABA know that I am deeply serious about digitalization, cybersecurity, and also the fourth industrial revolution. And that's the direction in which we're going. So I'd like to close this out by saying again, thank you for being with us. We will see each other soon, and God bless.